Hey, welcome to this episode of the Smarter Business Podcast, business advice with a video bent. Today, we talk to Sean Lewis from SLC Advisory Group. He talks a little bit about loving your business and also a new podcast that he's launching. If you like what you hear in this episode, please subscribe and share this with your friends. Welcome to the latest episode of the Smarter Business Podcast. Today, we have Sean Lewis of the SLC Advisory Group, and we're going to talk a little bit about loving your business. So, Sean, let's start with a hello. How do you do?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. Your camera setup looks awesome, too.
Thanks. I had a lot of help from an expert.
So, Sean, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and your company. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
All right. So I'm Sean, and I started SLC Advisory Group about close to a year now, and really with the belief that we share experiences and provide supports to help business owners change their businesses from something that they own, that owns them, to a format that they own and love, right? Business owners are typically buried by their businesses, are unhappy, don't want to show up for their own business. So we provide a support structure and a set of experiences to help them change that.
That's excellent. And I don't know, do you want to get in it all to like some more of your own business story or your own kind of path to where you started up a year ago?
So I had been in the home care business for about 20 years. And one day the stars sort of all aligned where the things that I really loved to do, as opposed to the things that were like burdensome in a business, I really got to start a business that focused on just those things, right? And it just, it worked out very nicely one day. And then I sort of went into my own business, not as a business with partners or anything like that.
That's excellent. Excellent. Well, the track record is a good thing, right? When you're telling other people how to get it done. So, okay. Well, that's a great kind of roundup of the business and so on. Part of what we're going to talk about today is that you have made some kind of changes lately, right? Like I alluded to in the opening, loving your business. That is tied to a tagline that you actually just started using as part of a bit of a rebrand, a business you actually love to own. Do you want to talk? You touched on it a little. Do you want to get any deeper into what that tagline really means to you and to the people you work with?
The tagline was sort of born out of a whole set of work that I'd done with Eric Eustace, right? And I had been having a great deal of trouble for the past year, really coming up with my own voice. In my former business, it was easier to describe what we did and how we helped people, maybe because it wasn't directly for myself. But over the year, I've been really struggling trying to find, what does a CFO, a fractional CFO, mean to somebody? I didn't really anticipate how difficult it would be to describe what I do, right? Or more importantly, how difficult it would be to describe what I do for a business that doesn't have a formal CFO or has never had a formal CFO or COO. So what does a person really do for an owner? So over the course of about a month and this whole process of really trying to come up with a digital presence and really define what it is, this line sort of really embodied not what I do, but how I make business owners feel at the end of the day once we've started working together. And it's not about all the little tasks of putting together financial plans and systems and things in place, but after you get done working with somebody that provides supports for you so that you're not buried by your business anymore, I love going to work. It's a business that I own, that I now have the freedom to do and be or get the benefits from the lifestyle that I wanted to have, that I started a business to do, right? So I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's excellent. And that's no easy task to kind of distill down the essence of your business and your mission into just a couple of words, which is why you bring in people like Eric there. Yeah, Eric of the sea.
Of the
That's a
sea.
weird way to say it, but yeah, of the sea.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're great and local uh, branding company here in Buffalo.
Yes.
So, along with this new messaging and some of your new kind of looks and feels there, you're doing a bit of a new publication coming up soon, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna start my own podcast because I enjoy this so much and have so much, zeal to be on camera. But I think that of late, part of becoming a digital presence is really becoming comfortable in doing this. And I think I have some things to say that would be interesting to people, especially in the realm of how do we represent the mistakes that other business owners have made along the way, right? Sort of like a commiseration of problems that we've all gone through, how similar we all are as business owners. And then, we're all the same, but also maybe I can learn and avoid something in the future, right?
Well, I mean, that's always the hope, right? Like so often when you start looking for the solution to a problem, it's obviously because you're already experiencing it. But what if you can, take a few of those problems that were going to happen and proactively educate people on them? That's, I mean, it's an excellent kind of mission to have as a podcast, and every kind of uh, mastermind group, or you're involved with the CEL, those groups, like a lot of it is just that storytelling from member to member. This happened to me, don't let it happen to you, kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's excellent. That's and you are going to shoot your first episode of that podcast this upcoming Friday. We're recording this on the 24th. It's going to come out on July 1st, 2020. So you're going to be right around there for your first release, right? Or do you have any kind of release schedule in mind for your new podcast?
No, I think that if all goes well within a week, if it's going to take a lot of massaging to get right, maybe 2 weeks.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the best practice is consistency, right? So
Yeah.
whenever it comes out, start having them come out on the regular. And, if you say interesting things, people will follow. So what kind of, I guess, inspired you to go that route with the kind of the storytelling and so on? Was there any one thing that kind of, put that together? Like, I don't know, the style of it. I think it's a good, interesting take. Was there anything that influenced it?
I had enjoyed Guy Raz and how I built this, right? And I thought that was a great way for people to understand how businesses got started from the ground up. But it really talks about, how they did it. Some of the mistakes is built into it. It's really about their whole journey, right? But I really was mostly interested in what did they, mess up, and how did they fix these things, and what was it? What did they do to shortcut things so they didn't have to spend so much time redoing things, or how much money did they waste? Because those were just the way my brain sort of focused on, right? And then what I do. So I thought maybe just taking that chunk right out of how I built this and just making a whole podcast right about that. And I think that would be interesting. Sort of like sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't know, maybe it would also have that element of, that rubbernecking when you see it in an accident, you just want to see what went wrong, right? maybe that would be an attractive component to making it so successful.
Well, I'll tell you what, you get really successful people on there, and people know they're going to hear how they messed up. Like that's gold. That's going to get people to listen for sure. So that's excellent. And I guess another piece that we talked about beforehand, kind of bringing up here, is kind of the setup that you are using, and we alluded to the fact that I helped you get set up with your video and audio rig there and everything. Um, did I guess do you want to talk about what that experience was like at all, or kind of I'm ultimately going to get to the product that we set up that helps people, empowers people to do what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So I think one of the barriers for entry for me was not just the equipment and putting it all together, but then just having a sense of what's good, what's not good. I didn't want to spend all my time trying to figure out what was good information, what was not good information. And there's a wide disparity of these things. And I liked the format that you produced for this, which was a turnkey process with a whole kit, which is phenomenal and works great and was easy to set up and did it in less than an hour. But then having the community to sort of commiserate together, be all at the same point of starting out. We're all a community of people that are in the same boat, sort of getting our feet wet at the same time. And this sort of Toastmasters community for video where we really don't have to be bashful with each other because there's no one that's, this really great content influencer that you just feel like you're not living up to, kind of thing, right? So that's what I really liked about what you're producing. Besides, and I like your great personality, your compass points north. It was just a good fit.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. And the product that we're referring to is the new Vidwheel Creator Network, which, like Sean mentioned, is kind of a 3-part product. There's the kit that Sean and I are actually both using right now on this podcast. There's the community, which you brought up, which we have regular Zoom meetings with the full group. We are currently on Slack and have an email element, but there's actually something that's going to come up in a very a meeting very soon that's actually going to change the platform a little and so on. I think we've got an interesting software solution that's going to be pretty cool. So, and then the third leg of that is the guide, as I call it, which is kind of consulting to help people get set up, help people get going. Sean and I have had a lot of conversations about moving this podcast forward and so on, and we'll have a lot more as we get into, strategy going on and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that we were able to make it happen. You were talking about producing content when this was just a very, very light concept. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of, bring it together for you. And that is the use case that we're looking for. So I think that works well. Can you think of any specific challenges that kind of came up along the way that maybe either we were able to solve as part of the creator network or something you just had to work out yourself to kind of get to the point now where you're, just starting to shoot and produce?
I think one of it was getting a space that I could put this up permanently with, and took some finagling, but my wonderful wife and 2 daughters decided that for Father's Day, they were going to convert what had been our third and spare bedroom for basically this, right? For an office space that I could have a permanent wall that made sense, right? And so I think that was the biggest challenge, is how to get this right. So I felt like I felt professional, so that I wouldn't be battling over the professionalism and my content. So.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a big piece, having a space, and nobody ever gets to see this part, but I don't have anything special here. We've got some books on a shelf back there. Shelf is full of like art supplies and kids' toys and stuff. But every day before I get on a video call, I have to clean up all kinds of toys and like art supplies and stuff and go stash them in the corner of the room. And it it's all about making it presentable to the camera, right? Don't look over here, kind of thing, yeah. But yours looks great. I was telling you before we got on, before we started recording, that man, you put me to shame. So congrats on that. I think it's going to be. I think people are going to want to be on your podcast just to be, kind of, leveled up in terms of the classiness, So
It's easy. These things are, it's just one wall. You should see it's an absolute wreck this side of the, the table.
Right. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. Yeah. So just make sure you keep that plant watered, right? And that'll be the key to the whole thing.
I'm just gonna lacquer it.
Yeah. Okay, let me look at my notes here. Okay, we have made it to the point of this podcast, which kind of ties, it's the common thread through all these Smarter Business podcasts. So there's a few kind of caveats to this question. Number one, you have to pick one thing that you've done that's made your business or a client's business smarter, right? So it's got to be one. The reason we do that is, well, you got to pick the best one, right? That's the gold content for everybody. So we didn't talk about this beforehand. So if it's really just, if you, give me the first thing that comes to mind. Just hit us.
I think that the best thing that I've done for both myself and for my clients is it's really seeking out the expert in that specific area, right? If I am not the best person to give myself advice about something or for somebody else, it's really going after that person. I think that's probably the number one thing that anybody can do for anybody, really.
Do you have any kind of, I don't know, specific instance maybe where that really worked out well, where you were able to track down the one person who was able to do this or that?
No, I think this is we've talked about it twice already today, right? So I don't know anything about branding or marketing, right? I know a little bit, right? I can read and I can do website stuff, but I'm not the best person to deliver the most impactful message. So I sought out Eustace, right? And for you, for the video, it's the same thing, right? I do it all the time with legal expertise and things that you do as a COO, right? You bring together the people that are most effective in those areas for that business. So it's just a natural thing that I've always done.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a great example of it that is maybe something that's easy for folks to kind of relate to, right? The lawyer or say a doctor, right? You're not afraid to look for expert advice in those cases, but there are certainly certain things that you do in your life where you're like, I can do this. And then sometimes you find out that maybe a little bit of expert help would have been a good thing, right? So
yeah, you have to elevate the priority of what the negative could be more than just money or jail, right? It's bad. If bad marketing is really that important to you, you go seek out that expert, right? So it's elevating everything to that level where I'm going to get the best.
Right. Excellent. Well, that's a good one. That is a good, smart business tip. I like it. All right. And I think we've moved through things pretty quickly here, and we are on kind of the last point of the actual interview, which is we always do, and I do this with all my interviews. We've, if I'm doing a testimonial with somebody, whatever it is, I always leave an open-ended question at the end of the interview process. And the reason I do that is very often somebody came into an interview with a little something that's in the back of their head and they haven't had a chance to verbalize it, given my line of questioning, or the line of questioning, knocks something else loose where they're like, aha. So open-ended. Sean, do you have anything else to say about your business, about somebody else's? Some people have used this as a space to recommend books or specific software, mentalities related to business. just whatever. What's your top thing right now?
Oh, I think I'll make a book recommendation. How's that?
A
Something that.
book. That's great.
So I just got done reading Ramstrong's Know-How, and I just found that to be an incredible book, because what he describes in his book is really, he discusses the process of identifying and acquiring real knowledge, and expertise that is applicable and repeatable, right? So it's not just how do you find expertise, especially nowadays when we're so reliant upon the digital world, right? What is just knowledge that came out of luck, right? Or that is opinions that are disguised as knowledge, but knowledge that is real hard fought for and experimented and refined so that it's really applicable to a situation and you can repeat the successes again. So I highly recommend that book to anybody that's looking to really understand what expertise really is and how you develop it and how you seek it out, right? So I think it's applicable for our business.
That's excellent. Yeah. Can you give the title and author one more time?
Yep, it's Ram Charan, and it's Know-How.
Excellent.
It's a white book with red covering. It's very pretty. The cover definitely fits the title.
That's awesome. That's yeah, I'll have to check that one out. You got me. I have not read that one. So I'll put it on the list. All right. Well, thank you for that. And Sean, thank you for being on. If you have anything else, any last thoughts, I'll let you throw them out there. Otherwise, I'm just this would be the point in the podcast back when we were in studio where we would shake hands, but that wouldn't be allowed anyway right now. So we'll just wave goodbye. All right.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being on. Well, that wraps up this episode. Thanks to Sean for being on. Please check out SLC Advisory Group. If you found the information in this episode useful, please subscribe and feel free to share it with your friends. Thank you for taking the time to check us out.